Yeah, so this is Crossplane community meeting and on December 2, 2021. So as usual, we'll go over our agenda and folks should feel free to add themselves to the attendees list and make additions to the agenda as we go on. So first thing is about the Crossplane releases. So we're expecting the 1.6 release to be cut in December 21, but its feature freeze is on December 7 next week. So we gotta merge all the PRs that introduce new feature by December 7 so that they are included in the release. And after that point, we will accept patches for like bugs until I believe December, like 3 or 4 days before December 21, the day we cut the release. Daniel can correct me. And then on the release day, we're going to just release, and the next fixes will come after that by backporting and releasing patch releases. Let me actually share my screen. Yeah, do you see the agenda now? So this is first time I'm running this meeting. Apologies for.
Looks good. We can see it.
Cool. So yeah, that's about the release dates, and we've got the roadmap board about what's going to be implemented in the next next couple of months at least. And here under releases, we close these IntelliJet related ones because I mean I'll get to that IntelliJet section, but we've had a number of releases in IntelliJet land, and what is in progress is testing Crossplane at scale. I think Nick can give an update on this, but essentially we've got a repo about doing these tests, and I believe one PR is left to be merged to Crossplane core, or was it merged, Daniel?
Say it one more time.
There was a PR from Nick, resulted from these scale tests that makes I believe limit the reconciliation rates to as reasonable amount.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one's been merged.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, the fruits of that work was that that and other few PRs, and now we're gonna update all providers with this new functionality from Crossplane runtime. And the ACK stuff, these are still on hold since we are focusing on other code generation efforts like IntelliJet right now. Remove or highlight older Crossplane version documentation. Do we have an update on this? Daniel, I believe you were looking into this, by removing it from Google or something.
Yeah. So basically, we have a couple of ways we're addressing this right now. Number one, when a release goes out of support, which Muafik was describing at the beginning of the meeting, we remove its documentation from the website, which can be kind of an issue if you're linking to something with a specific version. That being said, what that allows us to do is make sure that there are not results served in Google, or if they are served in Google, that they give you a 404 when you go to them, which ensures that people are not looking at super stale documentation. So it's kind of a trade-off we're making there. And then after every release where we have a new version of documentation available, we also submit a request to Google to re-index the docs, which should, in theory, put the newer version at the top of the results. But it's not perfect at this point, I guess, but it should be a lot better, and it should prevent folks from looking at stale documentation.
Yeah, I see a fix here done in Crossplane.io website. Yeah, thanks for the update. Yeah, so these are the things that seem to be in progress in Crossplane land right now. And in design, one is generic reference design doc. This is put on hold because of we did not feel great about its security implications for now, and there isn't an immediate need, at least for now, for this mechanism in the core projects. So this is on hold, and there is support for pluggable secret stores. Hassan, do you have some updates regarding this?
Yeah, actually, it was a long-running design doc. There were a couple of points that we kind of discussing and couldn't find to a conclusion. But I pushed a new commit yesterday, and I feel like we are very close to get it merged, and hopefully we can then start implementation.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you. For those who are interested, you can see the PR here with the design doc. Yeah. And the next is support patching from common data sources. So this is very similar to generic references. And I believe I have coupled them together. Yeah. So the same PR will fix both of them. And so like, this is also on hold. I believe this is a little bit also related to the observe only cross-plane resources issue, because the observe only cross-plane resources are requested by the community so that they can reference from those resources into actual running and reconciling managed resources. For example, a VPC might be used by many composites or like many managed resources in the cluster, or in more than one cluster essentially. So we don't want many controllers reconciling the same thing. So all of these three are kind of similar, at least the requirement to patch or requirement to fetch information from an arbitrary resource is a requirement. And the last one is the one pager for pluggable webhooks. I just moved it to under InDesign because I had a design draft PR about this that I didn't open publicly yet. And I just took a pass at it and updated it. So folks are very welcome to take a look and review it. This is essentially adding support for Crossplane so that providers can implement functions that will be called for as validating webhook or mutating webhook, and also conversion webhook for CRD migrations. For example, we have quite a few V1 Beta 1 resources in different providers. So in order to bump them to V1 and have schema changes, we will need this mechanism so that we can point Kubernetes to that, hey, use that webhook for doing the schema conversion. And other good things we've been putting command marker immutable, but there is no technical implication of that. So the webhooks will actually enforce this. So please have a look at this and leave your thoughts. Yeah, I think these are the issues that we want to mention. And prioritization, I don't think right now there is the updates about the prioritized list. Is this a different one? Yeah, that was the PR that I was talking about, like max reconciliation rate flag to Crossplane and to all providers, including the Terajit ones, to make them not aggressively requeue. And yeah, there are some other changes as well. Daniel, would you mind giving an update about this?
Yeah, this one is not super impactful to end users per se, but for a while we've been using kind of some legacy tooling, you might say, depending on your outlook, I guess, to build and push our images. And so that's why for all of our providers and all of our repos, essentially any image we are publishing, if we wanted to do multi architecture builds, we had to push them to different different repos first, right, and then use the manifest tool to be able to combine them into a single image. That works fine. The consumption model is pretty much the same. You still reference a multi-platform image, but this was becoming especially annoying when setting up new providers, especially when we see all these awesome new ones being provided by the Terrajet stuff. So essentially now what we do is we utilize BuildX to be able to push a single multi-platform image at once. And also as a side effect of this, we have a little more flexibility in how we publish images, which should help with providers and some of the stuff we're doing right now where we build multi-platform images, for instance, for the package, which doesn't really make any sense, right? It just has YAML in it. So it's not really that relevant. And so there's a couple changes there. The last one that I'll mention is that we will now also be publishing everything directly to the Upbound registry as well as Docker Hub. Folks are likely familiar with some of the rate limiting that Docker Hub imposed on its repositories. So this gives us a little more redundancy to be able to have alternate solutions. So this has been implemented in Crossplane, and we'll roll it out across the rest of the providers here shortly.
Yeah, it's nice that we can get away with a single flag to get the multi architecture images be built. Yeah, so this pushes only a single image, and then Docker decides which one to use depending on the architecture, right?
Yeah, which is essentially what happens normally, right? It's just that when you push the images, you're either uploading the blobs via the upload of your image to a specific architecture repository, and then you're pointing at that from the multi-platform repository. You're basically just pointing at those manifests with the manifest list. Now we just push all that at once. So for instance, yeah, all of those like AMD 64 and ARM 64 ones, for instance, will no longer be required.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So we will have only two repos for all the images, right? Or provider GCP, let's say.
Yeah, I'm also, I'll just mention this because it's sort of relevant. Right now, we pull down the whole image in the package manager for providers and configurations, which is fine because our images are just a single layer right now. What I am hoping to move us to doing is being able to make fat images, if you will, where we basically say the controller and the package are the same image, and in Crossplane, we'll only pull the bottom layer, which will just have the package contents in it, but it will mean that you only have to publish one image, right? And you can reference that as both the package and the controller. And you can probably also, if we wanted to, leave that out of your manifest, and essentially Crossplane would just use the package image for the controller image as well automatically in the deployment it creates.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for the change, man. Right, yeah. Let's move on to the next section, the provider releases and investments. So I will give an update about the TerraJet project that we have been busy with for the last couple of months. So all API server issues are resolved, and we've got the patch releases out, including, I believe the list is somewhere in the release notes here. So there are three Kubernetes versions that you can reliably use these new providers because of the number of CRDs. I mean, it's not specific to TerraJet. If you get to install more than 500 CRDs in a minute, you will hog the API server and it just stops responding. But with these versions, the problem is fixed, and you can install TerraJet providers or any other provider that exceed 1,000 CRDs essentially. But they're not yet available in many providers. I just checked before the meeting, checked GKE release notes, and they're not available yet, but I believe in the next couple of weeks, they will propagate to all big providers, and you can try them with Kind right away. Yeah, and the TerraJet releases. So we have made a number of releases in the last 2 weeks. One is TerraJet 0.2.1, where we have actually the release note for 2.0.2.0 is more fruitful. So you see, lots of PRs landed, and we still stabilized the interfaces and added the Hassan actually added the document now that you can follow and generate your own provider, and which a lot of folks already did, right? We have the provider Equinix based on TerraJet. We're gonna have, I believe, Linux provider and a few others down the line. So yeah, go ahead and check out this document, and you can start with the new provider jet template, similar to provider template we have, and generate your own first provider. And about the releases, so we've released GCP, AWS, Azure, but this time we've had 2 different versions. Before, the releases before that, for example, 0.2.0 of AWS included, I believe, 70 or something CRDs. So 0.3.0 adds a couple more to that, but it has also 0.3.0 preview versions. So these preview versions are fully working, and they have the full set of CRDs that are ever generated, meaning AWS has 750, Azure has, I believe, 650, and GCP having 400, on the order of 400. So you can install those, but they're versioned differently so that you can, as I mentioned, you can install those only in Kubernetes API servers that are after some versions. So you can try TerraJet generate providers by using these main versions, and you can try if the resource that you're using not supported there, you can just go ahead and use the preview one and see how it all works. And you can go ahead in the release notes and see what is supported here in docs.crd's tab. All the resources Terraform supports essentially, maybe except a few that were exceptional in their schema. So please go ahead and check them out. And another update we just merged to TerraJet is the ID field is now available. We in some providers, the full ID or self-link of the resource is required to do the referencing. So that is something we added to all schemas of the resources, where we just have status at provider ID that has the value of Terraform ID that we use in the code. It's not really important for users, but it's important for us to write the reference resolvers. And I just touched on this, I believe. The guide is merged. Please take a look at it, and if you have any providers in mind, go ahead and test this guide and let us know in the Crossplane Slack. Another update is about the provider strategy doc. So I have been requesting feedback for this document for a while now, and it's been merged. Let me just find it. There it is. So here you will see the how we think about providers going forward. We have jet-based providers and the native providers. So you can take a look at this document, long one, and see how we think about them. This summary of tools section, you can skip them. It is essentially an analysis of different tools that we may end up using, and just making the case for hey, how much it would cost to switch any of those tools from Terraform based one. So you don't need to go and read all of them, but the fun part starts with options. How we can manage those providers, and there are 3 main options, and right now we have the proposed option is essentially the third one, having different versions based on different tools if you want to, and then bump them with conversion webhooks. But right now for initial releases, we went for the option 1, where we have completely separate providers, just like we do right now. So for a number of releases, we'll continue, and for the long term, we'll continue to maintain all those providers, the jet providers, just native ones. And by long term, I mean years. And once we have the strategy of merging them or doing anything, we will have automatic migration stuff in place. So like, you can depend on them once any of those resources reach API version v1 beta 1, just like native ones. Yeah. So that's it from that side. Yeah, recent releases, provider AWS. Aaron, do you want to give some updates, or I can also go ahead and.
The only update I've been watching, I'm still on that AWS code generator issue, which just to bring everybody up to date, I've linked the two issues that we're watching because we have not kept up with updates in code generator. The fix that we needed for the naming collisions on types got hit by a couple of other changes, and we're working with AWS in order to address those. Essentially, if you have a type where the input and output are not of the same type, it's screwing up the code generation and getting us into generating provider code that cannot compile and cannot pass linting. So I've opened an issue. It's part of their current sprint. We're really hoping they'll have it fixed by the end of this week. They've been active on it. Move off. Thank you for jumping in and helping figure out the field package configuration with Jay. But we're pretty much just blocked on that. Even if you have successful code or a successful code change, the overall run of make reviewable will fail on linting because we're generating invalid code at this point.
Gotcha. Yeah, we can think about it later to see where we are and fill the gaps that are needed. Cool. And I also saw another PR, I believe, regarding the API flag. Yeah, this one. But I guess this is only for documentation, right? Yeah. Yeah, we don't have the APIs difference. We just generate the whole resource. Cool. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for working on that. We're plugging APIs by taking them.
Yeah, I'm just noting, I've noticed, Chris, and thank you for keeping on top of it. If you watch Pull 920, we're tagging issues that are any other PRs that are blocked by this on this PR, just to say that it's related to these changes. So EC2 volume, EC2 route, and target gateway.
Gotcha. Yeah,
And
thank you, guys. Definitely appreciate it. Yeah, and yeah, thanks for the updates. Yeah, I believe we will go into Azure and GCP details in a minute. And yeah, lots of new providers. Yeah, that's actually like we were kind of seeing like a boom of providers in Crossplane country in the last couple of weeks. Today I have bootstrapped the Influx DB, and I believe folks over in Liberty Mutual, they are writing the provider Kafka, and there's also a provider Confluent coming in by folks from the FDS, the shipping company from Denmark. So yeah, there are lots of new providers in Crossplane Combo. Please check them out. And there is a new release of provider SQL. I believe it's got some new features. Sandy, would you mind giving an update there? Is Hassan frozen or? Yeah. Okay, I think we can come back to it once he gets back online. Cool. So we just got updates about AWS from Aaron and provider Azure.
Yeah, thanks, Muafak. Maybe I can give some brief updates about it. So I think the most important one is we have a new managed resource, public IP address. And we are planning to do a new release containing this new managed resource tonight or today with the 0.18.0. This new managed resource should be available. And another fix from Sergen was we had a bug when in the spec we declared a minimum TLS version for PostgreSQL and MySQL server resources. However, when we didn't configure them as TLS enabled, we had an update loop problem. This issue was debugged and resolved by Sergen. And those are the important updates from Azure side.
Nice. Yeah, I believe Sergen also contributed to a few other resources in AWS as well, fixing similar problems, like the update loops we have. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, provider GCP, I believe Hassan was going to give an update, but it doesn't seem to be online. So I'll just go ahead and there seems to be a new managed resource router, which could prove useful. Folks who are doing networking stuff in the GCP using Crossplane. Yeah, I'm not aware of new release of GCP. Well, actually, yeah, there is one. And there are quite a few changes, I believe. Yeah, go ahead and check it out. Yeah, is there anything else that you guys want to talk about providers in general? All right, cool. So I think we can move on to the next section, the community topics and questions. So there is this new content by Victor, I believe. Yeah. So I believe he's doing a series of clusters, so he can. Well, Victor's here. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the steps towards some material that I need to do for January, which is going to be composed of many different things, and one of them is composition. So I kind of I thought to make a short video about it, especially now that in December things are cooling off, so I can spend more time with videos.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Yeah, I was planning to create a new composition similar to platform refs we have using TeraJet resources. Maybe something that is the biggest composition ever existed. With maybe hundreds of resources. Yeah, I'll do that and see and watch your video to see how we can package it, because that packaging stuff is always a little bit foreign to me. Daniel is very interested in that area, and he did most of the parts, so it's a little bit, yeah, I'll need to watch this. Yeah,
especially if you're actually making a composition of hundreds of resources, you might actually want to break those hundreds into smaller groups, package them, and then use it to assemble those hundreds through packages instead of all of them directly in a composition, right?
Yeah. Do you? It should be possible to have more than a single package in a repository, right?
Yes. So you can have a composition that has 5 packages, for example, 5 configuration packages instead of 100 resources directly in a composition.
Yeah. I'll do that. I'll definitely do that. Though I need to find a use case globally distributed WordPress or something.
Not WordPress. But if you're looking for use case, use AWS always.
Yeah.
You always need more resources in AWS than anywhere else.
Yeah, for what it's worth, we had WordPress as the main demo for I don't know, more for years. We were we were checking with WordPress hey, is everything working? Let's deploy WordPress using the old Kubernetes applications here, which is replaced by provider Kubernetes right now, very similar to that. That was end-to-end test demos and everything. So yeah. All right, cool. Oh, Hassan.
Yeah, I got disconnected. I had some issues. So did you talk about provider GCP or?
No, not much
Yep.
really. So provider SQL and provider GCP, you can give updates about those.
Yeah, like we released provider SQL 0.30, and the main update there is like we have added MS SQL support. So far we had PostgreSQL and MySQL support, but with this PR and with this release, now we are supporting SQL Server, or I think it's also known as MS SQL. Yeah, so it could be used like combined with provider Azure or provider Jet Azure resources.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
show that.
Yeah. Regarding provider GCP, I just did a release a couple of hours ago, and this release contains a couple of fixes. Like anyone interested can check the release notes for the details. But there is one more managed resource added, which is Crossplane routers, which is something added by a community member. Yeah, that one. Yeah, apart from that, there are some other fixes and minor improvements, I would say.
Yeah, and we have a new maintainer in provider GCP
Yeah.
later. I believe it's been a while since he's been a maintainer, but it just shows up in this release notes.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
Thanks. So yeah, I believe we run out of usual things, and we've got like after this point we're getting into optional time for deeper technical discussions. I believe there isn't any listed here, but if folks have anything in mind to talk about, hey, let's talk about architecture of that specific thing, or how can we achieve that and stuff, we can discuss this, or just adjourn and give you back like 34 minutes. Right. Cool. So that was a quick one. Thank you for bearing with me for running the community meeting for the first time. I believe Daniel and Jared are pretty good at that stuff, but not much for me. But yeah, thanks a lot for joining.
thank you, Mark.
Bye.